Let me read to you a passage from the second chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 22 to 40. It's the Gospel for the feast of the presentation of the Lord on February the 2nd. St. Luke writes, "When the days were completed for their purification according to the law of Moses, Mary and Joseph took Jesus up to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord, just as it is written in the law of the Lord, 'Every male that opens the womb shall be consecrated to the Lord,' and to offer the sacrifice of a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, in accordance with the dictate in the law of the Lord. Now there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. This man was righteous and devout, awaiting the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was upon him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he should not see death before he had seen the Christ of the Lord. He came in the Spirit into the temple, and when the parents brought in the child Jesus to perform the custom of the law in regard to him, he took him into his arms and blessed God, saying, 'Now, Master, you may let your servant go in peace according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you prepared in the sight of all the peoples, a light for revelation to the Gentiles, and glory for your people Israel.' The child's father and mother were amazed at what was said about him. And Simeon blessed them and said to Mary his mother, 'Behold, this child is destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be contradicted, and you yourself a sword will pierce, so that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed.' There was also a prophetess, Anna, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. She was advanced in years, and having lived 7 years with her husband after her marriage, and then as a widow until she was 84. She never left the temple, but worshipped night and day with fasting and prayer. And coming forward at that very time, she gave thanks to God and spoke about the child to all who were awaiting the redemption of Jerusalem. When they had fulfilled all prescriptions of the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town of Nazareth. The child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him." That's from Luke chapter 2, verse 22 to 40, for the feast of the presentation of the Lord on February the 2nd. Among other things, it reminds us of the Holy Spirit. That scene of the Gospel I've just read is a beautiful scene in St. Luke's Gospel. 5 people occupy the stage. There are Mary and Joseph arriving in the temple of Jerusalem with the child Jesus to present him to the Lord in accordance with what was written in the law of the Lord. There are also Simeon and the prophetess Anna. The center stage is occupied by Simeon. He was a righteous and devout man, awaiting the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was upon him, we read. He is the man he is and does what he does because the Holy Spirit was upon him. So we could say that in this scene, the Holy Spirit is the principal, though unseen, protagonist. Simeon was righteous and devout, and his personal sanctity was the first great work of the Spirit of God in his life. He was an excellent embodiment of the very best of the Old Testament. And when we think of it, with Mary and Joseph and the child there with him, and soon to be joined by Anna, we have what we might call the holiest grouping of people ever to have gathered in the history of salvation to that point. The sanctity of that small and unnoticed group was the work of the Holy Spirit. Furthermore, the Holy Spirit had actually revealed to Simeon that he should not see death before he had seen the Christ of the Lord. As a man of the Old Testament, Simeon looked forward to the coming of the Messiah, and the Holy Spirit had been revealing to him that he would actually see the Messiah before he died. And now, with the parents of Jesus in the temple, Simeon was led by the Holy Spirit to the couple, and in the Spirit he praised and thanked God and uttered his prophecy about the child whom he held in his arms. It is interesting to notice that through the words of Simeon, the Holy Spirit revealed to the parents of Jesus, and especially to Mary, his mother, some new things about the child and his mission. The angel had told Mary and Joseph who the child was, and that his mission would be to save his people from their sins. Here they learn that this child is destined for the fall and rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be contradicted, and you yourself a sword will pierce, so that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Somehow, rejection and immense suffering would be an integral part of his redeeming work. He would be the glory of Israel and the light of the Gentiles. This they knew, but now they learn that the shadow of great suffering would fall over him, just as it would over those who love him and choose to be with him. The first and principal case of this would be his own mother, whose soul would be pierced with a sword. We could say that through Simeon, the Holy Spirit is identifying the suffering servant of Isaiah with the great child in their midst. He was the Messiah, but he would be a suffering Messiah, and one who would face great contradictions and rejection. His Holy Mother, the greatest of his disciples, would share in this suffering, and implicitly so would all who follow him closely. This was Simeon's prophecy, and it added to what Mary and Joseph already knew. So it seems that the Holy Spirit had been training Simeon in holiness and preparing him for the moment when he would enlighten the parents of the child in the plan of God. Mary, we are told in these early chapters of Luke, treasured everything in her heart. She was being aided in her role as mother of the Redeemer. Let us contemplate the person and action of the Holy Spirit. In his Acts of the Apostles, St. Luke takes a special interest in the Holy Spirit and his action in the early church. From the earliest chapters of his Gospel, he is likewise attending to the person and the action of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit sanctifies and prepares people for the coming of the Redeemer. Thinking of the example of Simeon, let us ask the Spirit of God to come into our lives with power, enabling us to be holy in God's sight and truly equipped to bear witness to Jesus before the world.